Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the 10-Minute Round. I am your host. My name is still Alex. Last episode, we talked a little bit about the main event for UFC 305 down in Perth, Australia, Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis. The video started to do a little bit of numbers, we kind of got a little hype behind this one. Turns out doing this isn't that hard. Eat your heart out, Brendan Schwab. So for this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the rest of the card. I did mention that it didn't seem like there was like a lot of hype behind this card. It's starting to ramp up a little bit. The further we get into the week, there's a little bit of shit talk going around. There was a picture that Izzy posted, something about like him smuggling sausages. I didn't really get it. Must be an African thing. I don't know. I didn't understand the reference. But either way, we're going to go ahead and jump right into the card. We're going to talk about the opener. The Leech, Li Jingliang, is fighting Carlos Prates. We haven't seen the Leech for a while. He's been off for about 2 years. He lost a split decision to D-Rod. He's kind of had like a strange career. He wins some, he loses some. He's not a terrible fighter, but I don't know how familiar you are with Carlos Prates, but he's had 2 fights in the UFC. He had one in the Contender Series. This is a guy who's had over 100 Muay Thai fights. He knocked out his 2 UFC opponents. He knocked out his Contender Series opponent. Overall, he's like on a 9-fight KO streak. So I don't think the UFC is necessarily doing the Leech any favors in his comeback. I think there's a reason why this is the opener. Prates kind of has that Muay Thai style. He fights long, throws a lot of straight punches, throws a lot of teep kicks, and then when dudes try to close the distance on him, he has this nice little counter knee to the body. The odds for Prates to win by KO are kind of somewhere floating around like the minus 150 range. This channel isn't like gambling advice. Don't come to me for gambling advice. I'm a terrible gambler. The last thing I gambled on, I was on a jog. I was like 2 miles away from home. I thought I had a fart. I took a big L on that one. So this is not what this is for. But minus 150 on a guy who's knocked out a lot of people. The Leech has a big ass head. It's a big ass target. I'm just saying, Anyway, the next fight on the card is Tuivassa versus Jarzinho Rozenstruik. I don't know what to say about the big fellas in this one. They're for sure going to go in there and slang them thangs. I don't think it's a huge favor for Ty to make this matchup. He is on a 4-fight losing streak. I don't know if this is one that he wins for sure. Jarzinho, although he has kind of like he wins some, he loses some, kind of goes 1-1 a lot. He's kind of a cleaner striker than Ty. He's dangerous. He's still dangerous. And Ty, I don't know if his game has evolved that much. He's obviously talented. He's quick for a heavyweight. He throws heavy shots. He's durable, can take a shot. It's brought him a long way, but his game has never really evolved. So I don't know if the UFC is doing him a favor by matching him up against Jarzinho, because Jarzinho can knock him out. He has that in him. Personally, I would like to see Ty win. I think that it would be cool to see Ty get the knockout in Australia, jump the fence, do the shoey, everybody's happy. Because if he goes on a 5-fight losing streak, not saying he's going to get cut, there's not a lot of good heavyweights left in the division, but if he goes on a 5-fight losing streak, that shoey is going to be a shoey of sadness. It's probably going to happen not in an arena full of cheering fans, but it's going to be like in an alleyway out of an old boot, and it's going to be filled with his tears. So hopefully Ty gets this one done. I don't know about his training camps like out of Abu Dhabi. I don't know exactly what I don't know how the training looks over there, but hopefully he's learning some stuff. I did see he like had a few sparring sessions. I don't know how long ago it was, but he did spar Alex Pereira for a little bit. So hopefully he's evolved a little bit. It wouldn't kill him to take Jarzinho down and land some ground and pound. Anyway, so the next fight on the card is Mateusz Gamrot versus Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker, city kickboxing guy. The last 3 fights are city kickboxing guys. I don't hate this one for Dan Hooker. Mateusz isn't a big lightweight. He brings that style where he's going to kind of cling to you like saran wrap. A lot of his fights end in decision. A lot of his fights end in like close split decisions where it's kind of like, maybe it could have gone the other way. It's not, Dan Hooker is like a plus 250 underdog. And that's kind of an attractive price, man, because it's hard to grapple against bigger dudes. I know Dan Hooker's probably not as good of a grappler as Mateusz, but other than like Islam, who's really been out grappling him recently, Dan Hooker just kind of loses to the elite lightweights. I don't, at least lately, I don't know if Gamrot is an elite lightweight yet, but he's definitely pulled a few out that were a little questionable. I see Dan Hooker in interviews kind of talking about how he's finally learning how to like fight as a big guy. Just saying, if he can keep Mateusz at range, land some strikes, maybe land some knees when Mateusz is going for the takedown, just kind of put some damage on him, he might be able to maybe not put him away, but he might do enough damage to kind of mitigate like the moments where he's fighting off of his back or he's fighting off the grappling to kind of take a decision at home. So again, not gambling advice, but that plus 250, it's kind of looking like the not so attractive girl at the end of the bar at the end of the night, You're 10 beers in. I'm sure by the time this fight comes around, I'll probably be 10 beers in. So that plus 250 is kind of, the night's got to end somewhere, is all I'm going to say. So, I don't know. Co-main event time. We got Kai Kara France versus Steve Erceg. Steven Vincenzo Erceg coming off of his title shot loss to Alexandre Pantoja. It was a close fight, but it doesn't really convince me as to where Steve Erceg is in the division, because before that, he had fought Matt Schnell, so the step up in competition was big. But the thing with Pantoja is all of his fights lately look like they're close fights, so I don't know how much of that was just Steve Erceg compared to like just how Pantoja fights. It did seem like if Erceg did a little more in that fight, he'd probably be the champion today, but he didn't. So here we are. For Kai, it's kind of a... For Kai, he's riding a 2-fight losing streak, mind you, against the former champ, Brandon Moreno. Was one of them, and I think Amir Albazi was the other one. Both good fighters. This is kind of one that Kai has to win, because if he doesn't, it's probably not going to happen for him as far as like a title shot. He's probably not going to stay in the top of the flyweight division. So it's kind of do or die for him, and it might be a good opponent because, like I said, we don't know where Steve Erceg is necessarily. Since he had that big jump, he was just kind of like the right guy at the right time for the title shot. Either way, kind of an exciting matchup. I'm honestly like pretty stoked to watch this one because stylistically, like, two strikers, one kind of a longer striker with Steve Erceg. Kai's not afraid to throw a little overhand right to taller fighters, so it's going to be a fun watch. We'll see if who gets it done. So whoever does get it done is probably going to be in a good spot for the flyweight belt. So that's about it for this one. That's all I got to say. Hopefully the fights are good on Saturday and everybody enjoys it. So I'll catch you later. I'll do a recap after the card is done. All right. Peace.